Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero! Back, Fuchs. And the ball in behind Damian Vardy! It's 11! It's heaven for Jamie Vardy!
You are an ostrich. Well, your head must be in the sand. Is your head in the sand? Are you flexible enough to get your head in the sand?
Now the fans are shouting every week, Louis van Gaal's army! Louis van Gaal's army!
Feet after a fabulous start, the game just got away from you there.
I have nothing to say.
Nothing to say about the game at all.
Drama from day one! This is the league we want to watch!
Hey, we're back. Back in the saddle.
Back in the
like
saddle.
we never left.
Back for numero 99 red balloons.
3 of 3 on the grouping of previews in terms of, or power rankings rather.
Yes, the final of the 3-part series in the build-up for next season, recapping last season, talking the juicy stuff this week. We got the attacking tier list, the one that everyone's been waiting for.
Yeah, everyone's been shouting for it, clamoring for.
Clamoring for it.
Clamoring for it.
Absolutely.
Wow. What transition right there. Beautiful. Let's get into it. First team, F tier. Luton Town.
Luton. I didn't even try and do that, but it just worked brilliantly.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The Mad Hatters on the shoestring budget. It had to be. Potentially the worst team to ever play in the Premier League.
Even last year, their quality in the championship, they were not. They're definitely it's one thing to be defensive first and you get promoted, but their attack was actually not even good by championship standards. It wasn't even average.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Coming to the Premier League, I don't know if it'd be a rude awakening, given the fact they probably don't expect much.
Yeah, I can't imagine, they signed to Heath Chong.
Yep.
So that's kind of their big flashy signing in terms
They're
of
going to sign, what's his name, Mills. He's like a young player from Wolves. He'll be more of a midfield kind of role for him. I mean, they're just not going to spend a ton. Completely understandable. They have to add 10 mil to their stadium. So
right.
It'll be interesting to see, but it probably won't because it's just going to be sadness for him.
Yeah, I think so.
Looking ahead, is there anything that, gives them a gleam of hope, Sam? Anything?
Well, their big player last year, Carlton Morris, 20 goals last season in the championship. So I think their hope has to be that he can somehow replicate that kind of production in the Premier League, which I think will be quite difficult, but you never know.
Yeah, I would have to say if they had Carlton Cole in his prime, it would not be looking good for him regardless. So
yes,
Carlton Morris doesn't move the needle for me, Sam. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think their best chance of staying up somehow has to be if they just got a bunch of guys on loan, I guess, would be their best bet. Young guys who are, better than what they have right now, but even then, how sustainable is that if you just get a bunch of young guys from, say, like Man City and Arsenal and United and stuff like that? Probably not.
It's a gamble.
Especially since now it's like City can just sell these guys for like 20 mil.
Yeah,
like,
guys
what's
who
the point of loaning them out?
Never played a single game for Man City.
Yeah, and they can just sell them for 20 mil. So
yeah.
Luton F tier, bottom by a good amount. Next up,
yes,
with Burnley. 2 of the 3 Fs down here.
Yep. Unsurprising, of course, you have championship clubs coming up.
Towards the bottom, but
Going to be towards the bottom. And
especially when it's one thing when you're like, oh well, could this guy transition? It's another thing when like their top goal scorer was like someone on loan, and that's the case for
exactly.
Burnley with Nathan Tella.
Yeah, that was exactly going to be my point, was that their leading scorer, Nathan Tella, 17 goals last season on loan from Southampton. I've heard rumblings that they're trying to sign him again this season.
I mean, if you're Southampton, how do you not just keep him and farm him in the championship again?
Yeah.
Automatic promotion.
Yeah, you'd have to have a.
I mean, it would have to be like 25 mil. Yeah.
Yep.
Have to be like insane.
And then I saw 10 goals out of Jay Rodriguez last year. You are not getting anywhere near that level of production.
Debatable. I can't co-sign on
that. And then their second highest leading goal scorer was.
Have you considered they have Wout Weghorst? They should be in the W category.
They will definitely have some chances for him that he'll probably miss.
Yeah.
Second leading goal scorer, Hideo Lazio with 12. Ashley Barnes, 7 goals last year. Obviously not with the team going into next year, but it just doesn't fill me with a whole lot of confidence. You got Josh Brownhill in the midfield.
Really.
That'll help supplement that attack, but still not good enough.
Yeah, they need something more going forward. I completely agree. I think F's fair. You could maybe make the case for like D- because they have one or two proven guys, but unfortunately proven in a bad way for Wout Weghorst.
Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts? If they do sign Nathan Tella, does that move the needle at all for you?
No, because I haven't seen it in the Premier League, and I haven't seen it for multiple years in the Championship because Nathan Tella's been on Southampton's bench. It's one thing when Bournemouth came up last year and we're like, well, Dom Solanke's been doing it for a little bit for Bournemouth in the Championship. He has a few years under his belt, and he's kind of produced. And then Dom Solanke came in and he looked pretty decent. But for Tella, he had one good year last year. He definitely could do it again. I would expect him to. I just feel like, and not to say he can't be Premier League quality eventually, but I just feel like he'll probably need another year in the Championship before I have faith in him. If you're Burnley, I don't know. I wouldn't spend that money to get him, but what do I know? Maybe he just is a morale boost for the team and has a lot of effects on kind of how they play and off the field that are way more valuable than 20 mil.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. I don't think it quite moves the needle on that one. But without him,
What do you have?
You're moving the needle farther back. So
yes, it depends how pragmatic you could be in terms of signings because they've looked around. I know they were rumored with a couple league owned guys, and that's always a crapshoot, especially with attackers more so than defenders and midfielders. But even then, that's kind of it's a little bit of a lottery. So
I was expecting a little bit more of the City connection coming in. Maybe a guy or two on loan.
Cole Palmer.
Cole Palmer, that'd be an interesting.
You know what's something? How are teams not loaning guys to like a Luton just for the fact they have like no one? Like I would instantly loan them like an attacking guy because like what are they gonna not play him? They don't have anyone else to play.
Yeah,
like,
that's a good
get someone
point.
in there.
Yeah, I agree.
But should we move on to the final F tier team?
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness. Is it deserving? Is it deserving? In my opinion, I would say yeah.
Absolutely.
I have him in the C- tier, but you had him in the F tier. No.
C-.
We're talking Everton. We're talking Neil Maupay. We're talking Calvert-Lewin's 5 games a year where he plays.
Yep. Yeah, Everton last season, one of the worst attacks.
McNeil was their best guy down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
That was about it. They expect a lot of help from the midfield for their goal scoring, which is not the best way to do it. They did just sign your guy Danjuma,
I do like that
who
signing.
well, it's hilarious because he was a Bournemouth guy, and then he gets sold from Bournemouth to Villarreal, and then he's coming back to the Premier League, or I guess English football in general, and he's going to go to Everton. Instead, he says, no, I'm going to go to Tottenham, plays like 2 games, and now he has an agreement with Everton again. What if he bailed on Everton? How funny would that have been?
That'd be messed up.
That'd have been hilarious. But, yeah, I don't know. That at least gives me a little bit more faith. But the whole, you have Neil Maupay, Damari Gray may or may not be going out.
Yeah.
You don't really know. We don't consider Wobie an attacker, even though I think like every app and stuff will list him as an attack. He's virtually just an 8 for him. Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to the fact Calvert-Lewin can't stay healthy is the main reason for why they find themselves down here, in my opinion. No?
Yeah, for sure. And then just the drop-off in quality in terms of having any sort of backup striker. Neil Maupay, one of the worst strikers to ever play in the league. It's not
striker,
qualified.
I'd probably just say player.
That's true.
Probably
Yep. That's good editorial comment there. Yeah, they don't have the Chelsea killer Sims anymore.
They don't have Mr. Naismith coming out.
No Naismith.
They don't have Solomon Rondon. Don't have Cenk Tosin.
Yeah.
Everton have had a lot of good strikers over the years.
I think what it comes down to is eventually Everton's luck will run out.
They have to start making quality signings.
They can't just
signings
sign
in general.
They can't just sign one guy on a free and then bring in a guy on loan and that's it. Like you can't do that for like 4 years in a row and expect to stay in the league.
Mode. Yep. You're just asking to go Sunderland mode.
Yeah, honestly, they're lucky they're still in the league right now.
100%.
If
they didn't have Pat Frank to get them one result and then lose about 18, imagine if he didn't get that one result, Sam. It would have been down.
They sell Richarlison. They don't really reinvest it other than bringing in Dwight McNeil.
To be fair, they had to sell him to make up for buying Davy Clausen for 35 mil and probably give an insane amount of wages to a bunch of failed guys. But still, even then, you're in the Premier League. You're still getting plenty of revenue each year.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to imagine that they can invest a little more than they are, but again, they had some bad signings and bad contracts. Not to mention, I would assume they're still paying Rafa, right? Probably still paying a couple managers.
Potentially.
I would assume. So, they stink. They're in a bad situation, but when's the last time Everton developed a player? Been a while? Just do that every once in a while, Pop a guy out. Pop a Baines out. Pop a Jameis out.
Yeah, the last one would probably be
Tom Davies, who's no longer there and sucked.
Holgate?
Yeah, no thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else before we move on to the D tiers?
No, let's stop talking about Everton.
All right. Moving on, the first D tier team. I can't fully co-sign on this. I'll say it. It should be slightly higher, not much higher. Of the D minus tier, we have Nottingham Forest. Awani popping off at the end of last year. Brennan Johnson, he's a speedy boy, a little rapid boy. And they got Gibbs White cooking. But there is absolutely... What's that?
They signed Alonga.
Yep, Alonga. I'm thinking they could be slightly higher. I don't know, out of D tier. Not saying anything crazy like that. Just bumped up over one or two of these teams.
Yeah, I think it's possible. But I think there's also the possibility that we're overrating them based on a good run of form towards the end of the season. They went on quite a poor run.
Are you questioning Steve Cooper and his tactics that he couldn't figure out until the end of last year because they had 60 guys on the team?
No, I'm questioning Awani's form, whether he can stay consistent.
Well, we won't be able to tell right away unless he sucks. Because last year, the first 5 games he was good, and then the last like 7 games he was good, and everything else in between was nothing.
Yep. Yep.
Obviously, the way they play is very much really centered on the counterattack, and then even just set pieces in general are kind of, going to be a big point for them because they're not going to have the ball a ton. If they won the ball more, maybe they'd be able to hold possession more, but that's a whole other thing. I don't love their attack, but I don't hate it. I thought the most intriguing part of the summer for them was whether you sell Brendan Johnson and reinvest it somehow. Because the way that they went on that run, like you're saying, Brendan Johnson wasn't doing a ton towards the end of the year, but early part of the year and throughout the middle part, he was kind of their main piece de resistance and attack, no?
Yeah. I like what they got going with Gibbs White, but it just worries me at the striker position. If Awonyi can't produce, where do you go after that?
Yeah, I don't think there is anything because there's no depth.
Chris Wood.
Yeah, well, better than seeing Sam Surridge come on, I suppose.
Hey, that's Nashville SC's finest.
Sure it is. Sure it is. What's the Forest to MLS pipeline with Lewis O'Brien and now Sam Surridge? Is the Greek guy gonna buy a team? Is he gonna buy MN United?
Maybe.
And we get some more players teamed up with Tamu Pukki.
Yes.
Um,
John Joe Shelby.
I don't. Oof. We'll see where he goes. We'll see what he's cooking. He might be Luton Town's finest.
Yeah, could be.
Wages too high.
Probably.
Again, I don't completely disagree with it. They're in the same tier. I just had them ahead of 1 or 2 of these other teams that we're about to go over. But
Yeah.
there's a lot dependent, and they definitely don't have depth. That's their weak part.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Sheffield United.
Yeah, maybe a little bit surprising to see Sheffield United coming in above a few other teams, a couple of Premier League teams. Yeah. You know, I think the thing that I like about Sheffield United is that they got a core of guys that they've been playing with for a number of years. So I feel like it'll correlate better to the Premier League than maybe some other teams.
Yeah. That's fair. I just don't know really who's going to be scoring goals for them, right? Because it's not. Who do they even have? Do they even have Bill Sharp anymore?
Well,
The championship legend, the newer generation's Ross McCormack, if you will.
leading goal scorer last season, he got Iliman Ndai, 22 years old, scored 14 goals. And you got Ollie McBurney, 13 goals.
I completely forgot that they have Ryan Brewster. That is my bad.
Ryan Brewster injured last season, so we'll see
Liverpool's finest.
how much of a part he plays. But yeah, they had some decent production out of the midfield. McAtee.
You guy Daniel Jebison, Canada's finest.
Yeah, Jebison. They don't have McAtee this year, though, but Sander Berge, he'll net you a few goals here and there, get you some assists.
Yeah,
All right, downgrade. Sell them. All right, sell them.
They're pretty low.
F tier, sell them.
You gotta make an edit to the.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah, I just don't. They could bring a guy in. I wouldn't rule that out. I wouldn't be surprised because they haven't really spent much money. But just where they're at right now, they're kind of in the Burnley spot. It's like I don't really have much faith in any of them. And even when they're up, it's like they have David McGoldrick. It's like so. I don't have much faith, given their current situation. Whenever you're over relying on midfielders getting goals, that's when I start to get scared. It's like you know my take, Sam. When it comes to bad teams, if I can't see you scoring enough goals, that's when I lose confidence in you.
That's true. You can't
Because,
argue with that.
yes, comes down to the attack for these bad teams. You want to move on to the next team?
Yes.
We have Wolverhampton Wanderers.
You know, honestly, they could have been F tier looking at
They
the
were
stats.
in they were, yes. I mean, the year before, I don't think anyone would have told you. It was probably the sneaky, most basic stat. The only team that scored less than them was Norwich. And then this last year, they scored the least amount.
Yeah.
So it's clearly, and we were wondering, like, is it the system? What is it? It's the players. It has to be the players. They just don't have a 9. Now they do have your boy, Sasha, what's his name? Who they
Kalajic.
signed. Yeah, he signed last year, and then the first half of the first game tore his ACL.
Yes.
So we'll give him a little bit of a break there. But I still just don't feel great. Hwang Hee-chan will get you like 3 goals a year, and then he gets hurt like immediately after he scores. If he was on a more popular team, he would probably be more of a meme. Like who'd Arsenal have as like a meme? Welbeck was kind of a meme, like he'd score and get hurt, or Bentner, Sonogo, those kind of guys. But
Lord Bentner.
yeah, Pedro Neto, just no substance. He just doesn't score. Fabio Silva back. I think that they'll probably loan him again or sell him. I just don't think it's going to work out from there. But who knows? They technically haven't sold Podence, but he's set to be sold. Obviously, we included Nunes in the midfield, but he's a little more attack-minded as well. They still technically have my boy Gonzalo Guedes, who looked good for about 4 games, and then they just didn't play him last year.
Yeah.
And they loaned him out immediately. So,
Raul Jimenez officially signed for Fulham.
I saw someone's predictions today that had him being pegged as the worst signing, and I was like, it is only 5 mil, you know that, right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
think he'll do good or do much there, but like 5 mil is 5 mil in today's
Yeah, that gets you
market.
a bag of chips for Premier
So,
League. Yeah, if they do end up selling Podence, and it doesn't seem like there's much for incomings, they could be in a real heap of trouble here. I mean, I think they're already in a real heap of trouble unless they can get some real great production out of Kalajic, which is a real unknown at this point.
Yeah, I'm still just more concerned about their midfield in general, given their play style and their ability to hold the ball, win it back a little here and there. They haven't really been able to do that much these past few years, but maybe there's a style play difference that's coming up for Wolves. Otherwise, this might just get ugly, and it's like Lopetegui's out by like the end of September, and it's just a long year for Wolves fans. But yeah, at least you have some experience with Wolves. Their main thing is just guys can't really stay healthy and also struggle to find form. So
yeah,
not ideal. But let's move on. Another team in the D list, Crystal Palace. They lost your boy Wilf, Sam.
He's finally gone.
I didn't realize so many people were big fans of Wilf. Everyone's like, oh man, it's going to suck to see Wilf and St. Maximin leave. It's like, okay, where were you people talking about this before?
You know, it's surprising. There's been a lot of rumors of him leaving over the past few seasons, and it was always like, oh, he'll go to a top half club or, maybe
it's always Tottenham,
league.
Arsenal, or he'll try out or like Dortmund or Lille or some like team like that. And then it's like, nope, he's actually going to go to Galatasaray. And you know what? It's pretty fitting. It's pretty fitting, Sam.
It's not ideal.
But outside of Wilf being gone, still have Mateta, still have Edouard. I'd say more in attack, even though we kind of talked about how he's midfield, but I always consider more attack-minded. Technically, I use attack, even though he's more midfield too. But there's a little bit here and there with creation, but it's always going to come down to Mateta and Edouard just not being able to find the form. They're pretty much their own versions of Hwang Hee-chan, where it's just like, except it's less about getting hurt for them, and it's more so they'll score a goal as a sub, and then they get the start next week, and then they do nothing for 70 minutes.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And another one gets subbed on and scores, and it's like, okay, well, what is that?
That's exactly the point, is they just keep flip-flopping. They don't commit to one or the other. So I don't think it's really possible for one to excel over the other. If I had to choose one, I'd pick Edouard personally, to just kind of roll with for a while and see how that goes. But
I like the idea of them being a 1-2 punch, and it's a little kind of thunder and lightning kind of style, but they just, like you said, they just don't. I don't know if it's like they just misplay like the form and like what teams are going to be, how they're going to be defending and stuff. So Vieira just like misread when to play him and who to play and stuff like that. But they weren't really popping off under Boy at the end, which is weird because all the attack was they're scoring goals like crazy. But
I mean, I think it's just going to be difficult anytime you're an attacking player to go on any good run of form when you're in and out of the team as much as that.
yeah, no, 100%. When you don't know what your game time is going to be like, it's tough.
Yeah.
Uh, Thoughts on the Elise rumor to Chelsea or Man City
I
for
think
around
it's
40 mil?
I think it's too soon. I think he could use another season at Palace, but
I think he could too, but then he'll perform well, and then he's what 60 to 70, and then you're really asking like, oh man, that's quite a bit. So
yeah, but at age 20, there's another year of development where he plays a lot. He played 2,700 minutes last season. That could be really beneficial for his game. Whereas
yeah,
if he goes to Chelsea, maybe he plays some.
20 games, 25 games, and not all of them starts.
Yeah.
So if he
Um,
goes to Man City, bro, he'll be in the rotation all the time, I'm sure. We've definitely never seen a situation like Calvin Phillips where they just sit on the bench the whole year.
yeah. But I do think the Crystal Palace attack is looking light, especially if they do end up selling Elise. Zaha not being there this year. There's, it's pretty thin up top. Chance for a younger player like that BOA guy, played a few games last season
Yeah.
to make a name for himself and get some minutes, but I think they could use an addition or two.
Agreed. I just don't know. It seems like they're forever like, we just can't afford guys. It's like, really? You haven't spent in a while. But I suppose that's what happened. These teams, I said this sometime last year, where it's like these teams that are coming up and they're getting hot, and then they just spend like 35 mil on a guy and completely whiff, and they're like, oh shit, and it sets them back for like 4 years. Like Benteke was their guy. They spent what, like 30 mil on him? And he had
Yeah,
played like okay at times, but that's pretty tough.
I think they spent a good amount on Edouard as well.
Yeah, like 20 to 30 mil, somewhere in that range. So
Yep.
moving on. Bournemouth.
The mighty Bournemouth.
I thought you might have him a little higher because I know you love Bournemouth. You're
Well,
big fan of Dom.
yes. Big fan of Dom. Big fan of Phil Bill, even though he's more
Midfield in general.
midfield, but
Still, he scored some goals.
a lot of production coming out of him. Our boy Dango, the winter signing.
Yep.
They brought
They
in
got a
Kluivert
Culvert. Yeah.
from Roma. See what kind of production he can bring. And of course, they still have some guys, Jaden Anthony, Kiefer Moore.
Yeah, spot start guys and guys you can kind of plug in once in a while. Absolutely.
Semenyo, another guy brought in the winter window.
Yeah.
David Brooks on the
They
bench
have the
there.
depth there. It's just, do they have the right quality and the right kind of guys to, um, nice balance of players in terms of play style and whatnot? I think they do. I think their team makes sense. We felt that about their team last year. I think it's still going to be more of the same. I think it'll just be interesting to see with the new manager. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to see if Bournemouth has really played any preseason at all. I've been too focused on a bunch of other teams. Just to kind of catch how they've been playing. I think they just recently had a friendly with Southampton and it finished like 3-2 or something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not worried about their attack really. It's more about their defense and certain aspects of their midfield, as we already covered.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
How many goals for Dom Solanke this year, Sam?
Well,
Over under 11.
over. What did he
Okay.
score last season?
I don't know. It had to be pretty close. Let me look.
Uh,
Tell me why you feel that
6.
way.
Only 6. I can't believe it.
Wow.
Maybe not more than
Over.
11.
Emphatic over. Well, if he's healthy, I believe in him.
Yeah,
That could be
surprising.
that could be the way I had a Ollie Watkins last year. You could give a big Dom Solanke vote of
But
confidence.
I think part of it too, you got Dango who came in the winter window. That was a big
Yeah.
boost having someone who could provide some assists. I think that
Mm-hmm.
definitely would help. And
Still have
yeah,
Tavernier and stuff
Tavernier,
for supplying some balls, but
Kluivert.
yeah, it'll just be interesting to see what's gonna happen with their play style, if it suits the attack more or just as much as last year, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's a big question because their play style last season was pretty unique in terms of how efficient they were with their limited amount of chances.
Yeah, anytime they did create a chance, it was a real good one.
And
Let's
also,
move on. Oh,
just wrap
continue.
that up, I just wanted to also the inclusion of Phil Bill in the attack. You know, that's a bit of a different kind of situation there. So,
True. True. Could be more or less. Who knows? Um, to the C tier team. Let's start off. You have Brentford,
mhm.
the C tier, closer to C minus.
Yeah,
I struggled with this one too, and this is where I ended up with them as well. Because you have to factor in how they did last year, but you also have to factor in they're gonna miss, half a season of Ivan Toney.
yeah, that's massive.
And you have to factor in how, guys like Damsgaard and Keen Lewis Potter and whatnot make a jump. So this is probably, I would say, the toughest team to judge, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of factors that play, and I'll let you expand on it.
Well, I think you have a number of guys that are just kind of question marks. Obviously, we saw Mbumo step up last season towards the end of the season, and he was really producing a lot in terms of goals. He stepped in kind of into the Ivan Toney role, and the production was there last season, but I don't know if I feel confident saying like he could carry that forward for
Or you can
a
pencil
sustained
him in
period.
for 7 goals in the first, till Ivan Toney comes back. It's like,
Yeah.
maybe. Who knows? He also, for whatever reason, seems like he always has terrible luck hitting the post
Yes, he does seem like he hits the
constantly.
post a lot.
So,
And then you have other guys, Shada, Wisa, Damsgaard, Keen Lewis Potter. All those guys, potential to be good. We've seen good play out of all of them, but can they do it on a consistent basis? I would say Shada is the most likely, followed by maybe Wisa. We've seen Wisa come in clutch with some goals, but I've also seen Wisa play like absolute garbage. So you just don't know how they're going to fare without Ivan Toney for, that first half of the season.
yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see how Thomas Frank makes his adjustments for the team. Um, I still have decent faith in them. I like this spot for them that we got them. Next up, West Ham. Sam,
Yes, West Ham.
they're not really gonna put much into the attack as far as the Rice funds. We do have Bowen, had a little dip last year from the year before, as expected. The year before he was just so good.
Hmm.
A lot's going to be put on Lucas Paqueta in the midfield, get the ball forward, just like it was towards the end of last year. They still have Skamaka. He'll probably get loaned, if not sold. Mikel Antonio apparently going to be sold. They still have Max Cornet.
Max Cornet, that's potential for an X Factor.
Yeah, we'll see.
He was
It's been a
hurt,
little while.
but we know
It's
the
been a
talent's
while.
there. 2 years
Maybe
ago
alone.
with Burnley,
Burnley.
he was phenomenal. So he was hurt a whole lot last season. Didn't really have a chance to get any sort of rhythm going, but he started featuring more towards the end of the season. So I think that's a potential. Don't sleep on Max Cornet.
I think the ultimate don't sleep on him guy, and everyone always sleeps on him, is going to be Danny Ings.
Lord Danny Ings.
Yeah, Danny Ings, very solid, proven veteran that we all know about. He'll bag you, probably anywhere from 6 to, depending how much you let him play. At this point, what would you say his max output could be? Like 13 goals?
Yeah, that's probably
Feel him.
about right.
He'll get you somewhere in there. Ben Rama, forever just kind of a frustrating player because you want him to make that jump, but it just seems like he kind of is what he is. He's a very streaky player, but when he has it going, he's fantastic.
Yeah, I think this could be the year where it's kind of make or break in terms of whether he can take that next step of being a consistent performer in the team.
Well, you'd think he would get more time this year as far as just like kind of letting him do his thing,
Yeah.
but who knows? Um, yeah, so they have a little bit of deadwood they could offload. It'd be nice if they could kind of get a younger attacking player and see if they could kind of, do something with that. I thought that they were gonna kind of pony up and get the Victor Gyorkis guy from Coventry, but apparently not. They still technically have Nikola Vlasic too, who will probably be sold or loaned out again.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts, Sam? Can Bowen return back to form
Yeah,
from the
I
year
think
prior?
so. I think so. I think he's a great player.
I feel like a lot of stuff last year came down to tactics, and Moyes was
Yeah.
just kind of all over the board in terms of what he was doing, and he wasn't making the right adjustments, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And
The
honestly,
build-up was kind of all over the board. I felt like he should have retired this year,
yeah,
and so,
I
but we'll
think
see.
so. I think he should have moved on, and they could have got fresh start. Because something we talked about last season was it was just kind of getting stale, and
Yeah.
so far no new signings yet.
Yeah, the only team not to sign anyone, I believe.
So I don't think that helps the fact any. It's just gonna get more stale.
Yeah. I guess it won't necessarily just be attack minded, but Ward Prowse will probably be their main guy that they get. Apparently Gallagher and McTom are guys they're looking at, so we'll see. I don't know.
I'd like Gallagher just to light a bit of a spark, but I think McTom kind of would
Then it
fill
becomes
a
who's gonna
role.
ever win the ball. It's just McTom's winning the ball for you. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
So West Ham has a lot to do, as we talked about in the first kind of transfer preview pod. It could really go well for them because they have the funds to do it, but also, there's not a ton of time left anymore. The season starts in about 2-3 weeks, so they got to get on it. Next
True.
up, C tier. C for Chelsea.
Hank's very own Chelsea Football Club.
Fantastic club.
He loves them. He loves
We start
young
off
Nicholas
star
Jackson.
player Hakeem Ziyech. May have heard of him. Followed by Romelu Lukaku
Yes.
and
the
Callum
fat man.
Hudson-Odoi. Good starting
Don't
three, Sam.
forget Raheem Sterling.
Oh my gosh. I
Hank
can't believe it
kisses
took
the badge.
I can't believe this. It took this people this long to just be like, actually Sterling's not good. It's like, really? I think he's been that way for like 3 years, but okay.
Yeah, he's been washed for a good few years.
People were very inclined to thinking he was good because he had the simplest role for England, where they kept constantly putting him in one-on-ones with the keeper because Harry Kane was dropping in the right pockets of space and stuff. We don't need to go into that, but it is what it is. Main attack for Chelsea: Mikhailo Mudryk, Christopher Nkunku, Nick Jackson. Obviously some kind of side pieces too with Medweke, Broja, It'd be interesting to see if they loan a couple guys out. Some of the Brazilian guys like Angelo. Um, I don't know. Chelsea's in such flux. It's strange to say. I think C's fair because they have quality, but it's unproven quality. You know, just because you spend a lot on a guy doesn't mean he's going to necessarily translate to the league. But how are you feeling about Chelsea's attack? I think the tactics have already helped. They can actually build up play with what Poch is doing with them. It's sustainable attacking football. It's not this just get everything wide and swing crosses in with Chilwell and James. Tuchelbon terror ball or Graham Potter ball. Feels a bit better, but the depth definitely isn't there. And the quality we don't know for sure. So I think C is fair.
Yeah, big question marks for me on this one. There's potential for some good stuff here, but it's a very inexperienced attacking line for a team of the stature of Chelsea to have kind of no Premier League proven guys, really. But some opportunities for some guys to step up. I'm sure Mudryk will perform better than what we saw last season. A lot of people are down on him, but
I think that's just part of tactics too. I think Poch is going to get the most out of these guys compared to anything Tuchel or Potter could have got.
yeah.
I think as far as personnel too, some of this just makes more sense. Like with the whole swapping Havertz for Nkunku. I mean, if you say what you want, one guy might have been a little more or something like that, but they're around the same price tag. It just makes more sense for Chelsea to have a guy like Nkunku who's going to be more direct and willing to take on and kind of has that aggression in him in terms of how he's looking to attack, whereas Kai Havertz a little bit more of a distributor. He'll pop up in the box once in a while and score and stuff like that, but it's not like you want to get him in behind and he's going to be scoring all the time. That's just not what he did. And that's not what he does, and that's obviously not what he did for Chelsea. So I think it just makes sense, kind of the direction they're going. But I think there's a lot of question marks as far as guys like Broya. Even though he just said he's bad, I think there's question marks as far as Sterling. Like, does he play that much? I don't even know. Like whenever he comes on in preseason, he actually just looks like the worst attacking player they have. So we will see. They have some guys to offload still, Hudson-Odoi, Lukaku, stuff like that. So, but like I said, I think C's fair. A lot of potential, but young and inexperienced, especially in the Premier League. Moving on, I think we have to drop this team down to at least C-, if not D tier, especially since they're going to be losing Mitrovic. We have Fulham.
Yes, when I made my list, this was pre-Mitrovic.
Okay. That's fair. Yes. Completely understandable. But as far as the attack for Fulham goes, a lot of it's going to be coming through the midfield, but just pure attackers, Andreas Pereira, Willian, Bobby D. Cordova-Reid, as of now, Raul Jimenez, and Carlos Vinicius.
Yep.
Did I miss anyone?
Did you say Harry Wilson?
Harry Wilson, yep. I knew I was missing one. I was like, that doesn't feel right. Harry Wilson. So it's not bad. The creativity is there. I am now, because Mitrovic is gone, I'm a bit worried about the actual just like having a 9 in there to finish the chances. I guess it's going to be Carlos Vinicius.
Yeah, I would think so.
I don't hate it, but I really, really, really don't like it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't have guessed that I would be in this position to say Carlos Vinicius is not the worst option, but considering the teams that we've previewed before, there's some just awful teams in terms of attack.
We're not saying let Carlos Vinicius cook, but we're definitely not saying,
You let him in the kitchen and you see what happens.
Yeah, you let him do something. I don't think that they'll spend much more, and if they do, it'll probably be more, I would suspect, towards defense. They might be selling your boy Tosin. Did you see that? That he's going to turn down Tottenham to go to Monaco?
Oh, no, I didn't see that. I saw that they signed, or are very close to signing, the center back from Ajax, Bassi.
Yeah. Yep.
Which I like that move, bringing in a younger center back. That's something we were talking about.
Well, you
couple
got
weeks
Tim
ago.
Ream can't play forever, even though it feels like he could.
Exactly.
I don't know. I feel like they could reach a point where they kind of were last year, where it's like, where are the goals going to come from? But last year they just kept pulling goals out of their butts because guys would get hot at the right time. They had like a stretch where Manor Solomon was amazing. He's gone now.
Yeah.
You're still relying on Willia. That's a bit scary.
Yeah,
Bobby P. Cordova-Reed kind of just stinks.
I'm kind of at a point where it's like just bring in like a quality attacker. It doesn't have to be a certain position necessarily, but just kind of raise the level. But I'm
I
not
agree.
sure exactly that'll happen. I guess it all depends on how the whole Mitrovic saga goes down.
I just am out on Raul Jimenez too. It's just is
Yeah.
what it is. He's not the same guy.
Yeah.
So, you ready to move on?
Yeah, I don't think there's that much to say about Fulham.
Good. Moving on. We have the B minus tier, and we agreed with this. I figured it'd be a hot take that you might be on board with, but I think 95% of people would not be.
Yeah.
We have Man U
Hmm.
at B minus, and we have a couple teams ahead of them that I don't think many people would have ahead of them. The attack consists of Bruno Fernandes, Mason Mount. I mean, you would think Christian Eriksen, but technically not Christian Eriksen. Martial still here. Mason Greenwood still here. That's nuts. But obviously the wing talent of Garnacho, Sancho, Antony, and then we have Marcus Rashford, who's forced into being the striker pretty much.
Hmm.
There's just so much money poured in, and I think this is partially why I have to downgrade him a bit because it's just so frustrating. There's so much funds poured into the attack for it to be this ugly and bad.
That's so true.
How is it this like dysfunctional? You don't have a 9, but yet your attack is probably valued at over like 250 mil. It doesn't really make sense.
No.
Um, I, Bruno Fernandes is very, very confusing player to me, and I can't wrap my head around it because there's moments where he does appear to be like one of the better Premier League players, and people just pencil him into that no matter what. And then there's the people who hate on Bruno Fernandes, and they're not right most of the time, but there's once in a while where it's like they are totally, they're not wrong. Like he just doesn't have it for
Hmm.
periods of time, and it's like, oh, what the hell? So
Yeah.
I don't know. And then the whole Mount thing is just, I just wouldn't have done it. I just don't think it's there. I'm not saying he's Dele Alli 2.0, but I just didn't see that as a need for them. I felt if anything, they could have used a guy who's more of a 8/6 again and kind of almost have him paired with Casemiro, a little more defense, because if Casemiro's not in there, you're still Swiss cheese, and even when he's in there, it's still pretty tough, with Mount and Bruno as being the other two in there.
Yeah, I'm at a point with Mason Mount where it's like you gotta show me something before I'm gonna get on board.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any of that last season at Chelsea, that's for sure. Obviously, they'll be hoping that a change of scenery is going to be beneficial, but like you said, huge waste of money. Jadon Sancho, Antony, silently one of the worst signings last season, but the favoritism of Manchester United kind of saw that swept under the rug, I would say, when
Le FA
Garnacho
Cup or Le Carabao Cup, whatever they won.
when Garnacho is your best performing winger outside of Rashford, it's cause for concern there.
I just don't know how, if I was United, I would have seriously considered cutting ties with Sancho and just being offering to Tottenham, and then you just say, look, we have to get Osimhen from Napoli. We just have to. Or we have to get Kane. We have to get one of the two. Because we're putting Rashford in a spot where he's still good at striker, but he really should be on the wing.
Yeah.
And then not to mention we could just have a natural goal scorer. And your team would actually be complete and it would make sense. Right now it makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
It made such little sense last year that you had to bring in Wout Weghorst.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much your team doesn't make sense. And yet you're spending hundreds of millions of pounds on individual players, not even on the team in general. Individual players. It's insane.
Right. We spent all last season just looking at the gaping hole of the number 9 position for United, and for some reason they have not addressed it.
Yeah. I think it's because if they're gonna go big, they just want to knock it out. But these teams are gonna like Atalanta are just making them pay, like 70 mil for Hoyland, and it's like, yeah, he's 19, 20, but that's what you have to pay for these young guys now because you're Man U. It is what it is.
Yeah. And the
So
striker market this year is like so
pretty
bad.
dry, pretty dry. Um, I feel like B minus is fair. I feel like they're severely overrated, and I agree with your take, Sammy. Per usual.
Good meal.
Good meal. Let's move on. Brighton and Hove Albion. Fantastic spot by you, Sam. This is where I had them too.
The true intellectuals, they see the truth.
Yes. The only thing I was surprised about was I saw they might be loaning out the Argentinian kid, Buenanote, or
Oh,
what's
okay.
his name?
Yeah,
They might loan him up, but they have so many options. They
Yeah.
have so many options. Joao Pedro, Julio, and Ciso both are going to pop off this year. Evan
Mhm.
Ferguson, Dennis Undav. They still have Welbeck. He'll be like their 5th choice striker. That's the world we live in.
Yeah.
Matoma can obviously cook. Gross and March have their own contributions to the attack, but are more midfield. They just have a lot. They have so many guys.
Yeah, and I saw this Adingra. He scored 2 goals last night
Yep.
in a preseason friendly, so that's another young guy to watch out for.
Yeah, they just pull these guys out of their butts.
Yeah. It's crazy how much depth they have just all around the attack, and guys that aren't necessarily household names yet, but they bring talent.
I have a feeling, and even though Evan Ferguson's really good, if they play Joao Pedro in the Premier League, I think he's going to absolutely cook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He is going to pop off.
Yeah.
I love their depth. I love their youth, but yet they also have veteran presence. It's about as good as you can get, especially for Brighton. It's pretty special.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a golden era of Brighton Football Club.
Yes. Anything else you want to say as far as who's going to maybe establish themselves, or how they're going to rotate it with Europa League versus Premier League and whatnot?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge would just be like, what's the winning combination here? And maybe there isn't necessarily one. I think we saw that last season. They would just plug in some guys and they just perform right off the bat.
Yeah.
So I don't think necessarily there is a right or wrong answer in terms of formation, but
It'd be interesting to see how De Zerbi splits them up and plays them and whatnot.
yeah, but like you said, with the European competition, that's something
Plenty of
to
games
consider.
to go around.
Yep.
Plenty of games to go around. Plenty of guys in the squad, so I don't hate it.
Yep.
Moving on, last B tier team, Aston Villa. Some fantastic players out here. Obviously, Ollie Watkins last year getting hot for an extended period of time. Leon Bailey, new signing, Moussa Diaby.
Oh, I really like that signing.
Yeah, fantastic move by them. Buendia in attack, Tielemans midfield, but attacking presence to say the least. Sam's guy Coutinho still here.
Coutinho
Hanging up.
collecting a check.
They got the best 41 in the Premier League, Jacob Ramsey, out here.
Jacob Ramsey, yeah, big season for
Yep.
him last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they technically still have a bunch of secondary guys. I would suspect they're loaned out. I mean, I guess there's plenty of games to go around because they're in Europe too, but guys like Jean Duran and Bertrand Traore as well. So, what's your favorite aspect for this the Villa attack?
I really like the Diaby signing. Like I said, obviously Ollie Watkins last season was massive. Went on a great goal scoring run. Hopefully he can continue that this season, but I do like their options with Duran and possibly Cameron Archer at striker. And then hopefully just continue to see the quality out of guys like Buendia and Bailey hopefully can elevate their game even further, building off of last season.
Yeah, completely agree. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of moving pieces with Villa to incorporate a couple new guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost necessary given the fact that you're going to be in European football again for the first time in a while. So I I like it. I like the way they're set up. It feels like they could make a jump this year. I gotta
Yeah.
say, I don't care for their new badge.
I hate the circularization of badges.
The
The Man
the
City,
modernization, yeah, the modernization of football where it's kind of more like minimalist look and they all look the same. I
and
don't
they're all
like it.
circles.
Yes.
Why does everything got to be a circle?
Yeah.
It's
Can't
so
have a
boring.
yeah. Um Moving on. The A tier teams.
Yes, sir.
Tottenham Hotspur, your club.
Tottenham Hotspur on the brink of being downgraded to probably about
Severely.
a D. If Harry Kane
Yeah.
ends up leaving.
They'll be in the C tier. I still like them enough.
Some people probably surprised after we've been trashing Tottenham over the
Well,
past season.
their defense is just absolutely abysmal, and their midfield is not that great, but their attack is obviously good. Uh, Madison, Lo
Hmm.
Celso having a little resurgence. They see that's the problem with Tottenham. We thought, oh well, we're hearing all this noise about Ndombele and stuff like that making a return. No, Lo Celso's been looking good and playing a bunch. Um, Kulishevsky, obviously, in there. Manor Solomon, Heung-Min Son, Richarlison, obviously the piece de resistance. Brian Heel, Harry Kane. How much longer they have Harry Kane, we don't know. Will they be smart and sell him? We don't know. All I know is that they signed Richarlison last year for 50 mil, and he was stinky.
Yes.
Um, and now you're getting Manor Solomon, and I had to jokingly ask you who's better, Solomon or Richarlison, and you said Richarlison, but I thought it was funny to ask. Uh, I still feel like for how cheap they got Madison, it's a fantastic signing.
Yes.
I don't know. It's just kind of a weird team that's in flux. They're very much like where Chelsea was at, kind of in the winter window in terms of like they're bringing in new guys, but they have to offload so many other guys that it's like, what is this team? It's like four managers combined, you know.
Yeah, it is a real hodgepodge of different ideas.
So they're like Chelsea, but when Chelsea was a few months back, they're a little delayed. But at least they do have Harry Kane still, who we've talked about it. We'll just briefly mention it. I don't think it makes sense for him to leave personally, and I judge him based on winning trophies and stuff, but at the same time it's like, why would you leave now? You're almost 30. You're so close to the goal scoring record. You might as well just stay. What is you going to Bayern and winning the Bundesliga do for your career and reputation? Nothing. So,
Yeah,
but if you're Tottenham, how do you not sell him?
right, right. I think at this point, maybe try and play one more year and then go on a free
Go to Chelsea or United.
Chelsea or United, and then you go on with that. Like you said, what's the point of going to Bayern? I guess you have the chance of winning the Champions League, but still, it just doesn't feel like if he moves there, no one's going to be like, oh, yes, finally, his career is complete.
Yeah, it would be very much like the rant to the Warriors, and it's kind of like, well, they were already good before you, and then you went there, and sure, you did something, but whatever.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it is what it is with Tottenham. I would sell him if I was Tottenham. If I was Kane, I would just stay at Tottenham or make sure that I'm get my free transfer to either United or get my bully bucks. Nah, I'm saying.
yeah, yeah.
Do you think Son bounces back before we move on?
No, I think he's washed.
Okay, fair enough. Moving on, the last A tier team, Newcastle United.
That's right. People might be a little surprised we're switching it up on them, adding an S tier.
Yeah, when we've had a A tier this whole time, but the S tier. There's so many good attacks. So
Yeah.
many bad and so many good. There's not really that many mediocre. The mediocre tier is more uncertainty as far as Brentford and Chelsea and teams like that. We don't really know what they are. That's the middle tier. You're
Yeah,
either shit or you're pretty good.
exactly.
Going to Newcastle. Obviously, Callum Wilson and Isak. Fantastic kind of rotation they got going there where one guy's hurt, the other guy can step in and play, and then one guy gets hurt and the guy's eventually back. Our boy Saint Maximin eventually going to be sold to Saudis. Anthony Gordon playing a bunch, actually featuring really, really nicely. You figured that Howe would figure out how to use him.
Hmm.
Murphy, a big part of their attack last year, whipping balls in, getting wide. Real big part in the counterattack too. And then Harvey Barnes,
Yeah.
the big new signing.
I really like that. A lot of people questioning that move, but I think
That's silliness.
that's a
That
great
is
signing for
silliness.
Newcastle.
Yep. It would have been even more amazing if it was West Ham, but I like it for Newcastle.
Hmm.
Um, what's your favorite part of this attack that Newcastle have?
I think my favorite part would probably be the combination of Isak and Wilson. They were just so uh, prolific last season. And we saw when they didn't have those two guys that there was a bit of a drop off there. But Callum Wilson, I mean, it's amazing how well he plays, and when he's healthy, he's
Yeah.
he's right up there
Easy,
with the best.
easily 14, 15 goal season. You just pencil him in. He doesn't even have to play a full year.
Yeah,
He's just got to play like 2/3 of it. He'll be good for that number.
yeah,
Yeah, Newcastle, I feel strong about their attack. I like where they're at. You want to move on to the S tier?
yes, please.
The lowest of the S tier teams, Liverpool. I did have Liverpool ahead of Arsenal for all that it matters, but they're both in the A tier.
Hmm.
But if you had to make me pick one, I'd pick Liverpool.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close.
Yeah, you can't really, you're just splitting hairs at that point. But
Yeah,
Liverpool, obviously, they have Salah of the Shire, um, Luis Diaz, Darweezy Habibi, who everyone is penciling in to be the bounce back player this year, which now has me concerned.
I have not seen this.
Cody Gakpo, Diego Jota, um, Harvey Elliott at times when he's more midfield, but he pops up in attack as well. Sobi will be a big
Sobi.
part of their attack. I like where they're at. Obviously, they incorporate Alexander Arnold and
Hmm.
Robertson in the attack, but obviously more defender slash midfield. But you know that front three of Diaz, Darweezy, and Salah, fantastic, and then Gakpo kind of coming in there too every once in a while.
Yeah,
Top notch.
Liverpool definitely is a team where when they're clicking, it's scary how good they can be. We saw that last season at times, and it reminds you that despite them not having a great season, the talent is definitely still there.
Well, I mean, the fact that and this might be more about the Premier League, but they didn't even play like even relatively well for half a season or
Yeah.
over half a season, and they still finished fifth.
Yeah.
Just goes to show you they get hot, they can do what they need to, and it's really fueled by Salah. But how many good years of Salah they have left? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'd say probably like one.
Yeah, I felt like last year's kind of might have been the beginning of the end, but he rallied towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
Um, is there a least favorite part of this Liverpool attack? A chink in the armor, if you will?
Well, I mean, you have Darwin Habibi, who we all know and love.
Yes, he's like like a crazy uncle or something.
I I don't think his best position is at the 9. I think his
No,
best is coming off the
get him
wing,
out wide.
which
Yeah,
obviously when you got a guy like Luis Diaz, why would you play Darwin Habibi?
yeah,
So you're still left with kind of a hole in the middle, kind of like United.
yeah. Maybe that's just Gakpo.
Maybe.
Jota, but he's more of a, if you have to play middle, he's probably better as like a false nine. But
that's always kind of been Liverpool's thing since Klopp has come in. They've
yeah,
not
don't really have
relied
a
on
nine.
one consistent goal scorer. They're goal scorer by committee.
I think the main thing to talk about is no Bobby Firmino. He's gone.
Yeah.
Amazing season last year, really out of nothing.
Yeah,
They just channeled their inner. They needed him to pop off, and they got him to pop off.
he did come in clutch.
Sam, how are we doing on the Zoom meeting?
We are on Discord, so it is
Oh, it
irrelevant.
keeps it no matter what. Okay,
Yes.
good, fantastic, fantastic. Anything else you'd like to say about Liverpool?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, let's move on. The Arsenal.
The Arsenal.
I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let you do your thing here.
Big preseason victory last night against the mighty Lever FC Barcelona, 5-3.
Barcelona.
Goal scoring on display. Looking at Arsenal's attack, obviously the dynamic duo Saka and Martin Odegaard were huge. Both potential players of the season. And then you had Martinelli had a great year. Trossard, sneaky good signing, having a great preseason. I think he'll be pushing for a starting spot this year. That was kind of their downfall, honestly, when he stopped starting, in my opinion.
Yeah. Terrible decision.
You got Gabby Jesus, who had a good start to the season last year and then got hurt and missed some time. And then you got some question mark kind of guys like Eddie Nketiah and Balogun, who
Who's not training with the team, and they're just like resigned to selling.
yeah, looking to potentially sell, but there's opportunities there because Gabriel Jesus is not really a traditional 9. And then
And he gets hurt.
you have guys like Fabio Vieira, Smith Rowe in that number 10 position, looking to break into the team some more. But last season we saw it kind of like Liverpool, goal scoring by committee. It wasn't just one guy. There's a lot of guys pitching in there, and I think we'll see that again this year.
Will we see any out of Nicolas Pepe?
Nicolas Pepe still on the team. Still on the
He's
team.
here. He's here.
Yeah.
Reece Nelson, they still have him technically.
They
How
re-signed
long
him.
did they re-up him for? Like a year or two?
No, like a full 4 or 5 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was like a commitment move, but he's still young. He's been at the club for a long time, so I think there's potential for him to develop into a role. Especially, I mean, they've been playing soccer till like death, so they need
Yeah.
some rotation.
Yeah, they refuse to though.
They do, for whatever reason.
Sam, how you feeling about Kai Havertz? The
Guy
big signing.
Havertz, I think it'll take some time to get adapted, but I like the idea of him taking over the Xhaka role rather than what he was
Well,
doing
it
at
makes more
Chelsea.
sense to have a 10 in the Xhaka role than forcing Xhaka to be there when Xhaka's not
Yeah.
really a 10. But
Yeah, you could see the limitations with Xhaka in that role last season. So
yeah,
it'd
but
be
he's
nice
still
to
goal
have someone a little more athletic.
Who's going to be Arsenal's leading goal scorer this year?
I think it'll still be Saka.
Okay.
I think he's just kind of the most consistent, but
You owe me a tenner when it's Trossard.
it could be Trossard. I love Trossard.
You know
If it were
how
up
I've
to me,
always
he'd
felt
be
about him.
starting every game.
Yeah. Let's move on. Man City. I mean, the attack. De Bruyne we considered part of midfield, but it doesn't even matter. Phil Foden, part of midfield, also kind of an attack in a sense. Gucci Grealish really coming back on as he should because he's a £100 million player.
Mm-hmm.
Julian Alvarez, perfect kind of backup rotation striker, and then selling Mahrez, but obviously they have the best player in the world. I don't care what anyone says. You can have your Mbappe, you can have your guys who dribble. I'll take my proven commodities in Erling Haaland, my boy Erlings.
Yes, indeed. I don't think there's much to be argued with that. Man City, a lot of firepower there, a lot of money spent.
Broke the scoring record last year in his first season. Main thing for him will always be the injury. And so I think depth will always be kind of a concern. But when you're spending as much money as Man City do on these guys, they're not always going to have the best depth. Gone are the days, Sam, of Man City buying Negredo, Jovicic, and who else did they buy that summer when they bought 3 strikers? Negredo, Jovicic, and someone else. Can't remember.
I'm trying to remember who.
It was like 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
That's a long time for us. But anyways, you talk about City. I'm gonna look this up real quick.
Yeah, I like Alvarez as that backup striker, probably the best backup striker in the league. Jack Grealish, like you said, really coming into his own in that role, which we've seen with Man City. Sometimes guys take a little bit of time to adapt into the play style because they play a very different way than pretty much any other team does. But I think now that he's kind of adapted that role, he'll just keep getting better and better. De Bruyne, obviously a big part, but a little bit of a concern towards injuries, and he's getting up there in age, 32 years old. So just something to keep an eye on for that. Obviously, Gundogan last season, not necessarily an attack, but came up clutch with some good goals and assists. And honestly, I felt really unlocked their attack's true potential. So it'll be interesting to see how the addition of Kovacic, can he play in that role? Silva, how do these guys unlock the attack?
Man City fans are already huge fans of Kovacic, as they should be. He's a very good player. We'll see with the injuries. It always comes down to injuries with them too. It's a bit worrisome with him and putting too much on him, and then he gets hurt and he's out for 4 to 5 weeks. It's always the soft tissue stuff with him. It's never like he breaks a bone. It's always the hamstrings or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, there's really no timetable on things like that. So we'll see. Also, I looked it up, and it was Navas who I was thinking of. So not a striker,
those
but
beautiful blue eyes.
Yes. They also bought Fernandinho that window, and I did not know this, but they bought him from Shakhtar. I don't remember him ever being there, but yes. That wraps it up. All we really made for changes was drop Sheffield to F and I guess Fulham to D.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But all right, next week we got the ultimate preview, episode 100 of the pod, but more importantly, previewing the bottom half of the table. You will hear Sam and I give our predictions for these teams, kind of breaking down the key features of every team, and kind of you'll get an aspect as far as the look. See how we see the table shaping up.
Yeah. Season is fast approaching. Just a few weeks away.
Insanity. Is there anything you'd like to say, Sam, before we depart?
Well, as our last episode in double digits, I would like to say, on to the triple digits, my friend. Here we go.
There's no looking back.
No looking back.
Until next time, adios. Mis
Sayonara.
amigos.